Hey there, theoretical BS. Evangelical 1 here. Um, I think your argument from divine hiddenness, kind of a reduction to absurdity argument that you gave in the video Nonbelief and Peek-A-Boo is interesting because you elsewhere have said that this was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for you personally. And I find that interesting because it seems that in most cases, a person who either loses religious faith, or has a lack of, you know, a lack of religious faith, they would base that on, more on the problem of evil. So this is a kind of a different approach from normal, and I think that's interesting. But I did have some responses to the argument. I think that the premise that God wants us to know X, and by X, you meant in your video some of the cardinal doctrines of the Christian faith. I think there are some problems perhaps with that premise. But I didn't really want to talk about that premise. I want to talk about the premise that we don't know X, and maybe if we could narrow it down a little bit more, that would be helpful. Instead of some of the cardinal doctrines of Christian faith in particular, maybe just the one doctrine, God exists. The claim God exists. Okay, so do we know or not that God exists? So in your argument, one of your premises was restricting the range of X just to the existence of God. Your premise would be, we do not know that God exists. Well, I think that premise is itself a false claim, because we do know that God exists. How do we know that God exists? We know through the arguments of classical apologetics. For example, the cosmological argument, the ontological argument, and the teleological argument for the existence of God. So these arguments are, I would say, rationally compelling that God exists. And I did see that you had some criticisms of the ontological argument in one of your other posts. And you also talk about the cosmological and teleological arguments in some of your posts as well. So it seems that you have heard of these arguments, and you are familiar with them, but it seems that you don't find them rationally compelling. Well, there are three possible reasons for that observation, for that fact. And I'm not saying that any one of these in particular applies to you. I'm just saying, if somebody knows about these arguments, there are some possible. These would be possible explanations of that, in light of the fact that they are, I would say, rationally compelling. So one possibility is that you have misunderstood what the argument is trying to say. And the conclusion obviously is pretty clear. God exists. But it could be that you've misunderstood, or whoever rejects the argument has misunderstood the argument. That's one possibility. Another possibility is the person, the skeptic looking at the argument, has an ulterior, non-rational motive for rejecting the conclusion of the argument, perhaps a moral reason for rejecting the conclusion of the argument, but that of course would not be anything about the rational that would really not say anything about the rational cogency of the argument. And a third possibility is that you have legitimate problems with some of the premises of the argument, and to know what those are, you'd have to state them. So apart from the ontological argument, I don't really know what your problems are with the other premises of the cosmological and the teleological argument. because, as I said, I can't read your mind. So, if it's the first two of the three possibilities, uh, that you misunderstand the argument, or you have an ulterior motive for rejecting the conclusion of the argument, then that would certainly undermine your premise that we don't know that God exists. Because if, for example, the cosmological argument can show with rational certitude that there is a God, then we cannot say God does not exist. But you're saying, or we cannot say we don't know that God exists. We would have to say we do know that He exists. So that premise in your argument would be false in that respect. So um, yeah, I think we can know through classical apologetics that there is a God, and again, that would be the defeater of that premise that we don't know that there's a God, because we do know instead that there is a God. So I do hope to hear some more from you about the cosmological and teleological arguments as far as the premises you don't like and why you reject them. Um, and perhaps we can have a, an ongoing dialogue on these issues related to uh, uh, the original video by you of Nonbelief and Peek-A-Boo, to kind of flesh out why you would say we don't know that there's a God, to kind of put meat on that. And I think the argument that you're giving from divine hiddenness for atheism, or at least to encourage us to doubt that there is a God, um, I think the argument that you're giving is a valid one, but not a sound one. And again, that's something that has to be fleshed out a little bit more, perhaps to be more clear exactly what it is that I'm trying to say more precisely. But I think that at least you're on the right track of an attempt to establish atheism, or the non-belief in God on a rational basis. And if you've already dealt with some of these things that I brought up in your video, I have to apologize for that. When you start talking about free will, um, the video freezes up on me, so I wasn't able to watch the last part of your video. I'm not sure why that was happening. So you may have already addressed all these things that I brought up, and I will try to. I will hopefully be able to see the end of it at some point. But yeah, once you start talking about free will, the video just freezes up. The end of it won't load. So forgive me if I have said things that you've already addressed, as though you hadn't. Well, thank you, and I hope to talk some more with you. I thank you for your politeness. You're not rude like some YouTube unbelievers are. You're not ridiculing or condescending to believers. It seems you are willing to have an intelligent, mature discussion with them. Not necessarily agree with us, but at least willing to hear us out. Thank you. Bye now.